Oh, here we go. Hat slachel dbog gulapo de eshed shenowat seeds dot spoyalet bubshed. Good afternoon, all of you folks. My name is Shanoa and I'm Puyallup. I'm joined here with my dear friend, my Puyallup sister, Irene, and I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hey, Hatshachel, Irene McLeod Seedstas, Boyala Pubsched, Tol Ched Nisqually, Washington. My name is Irene McLeod. I am a Puyallup tribal member as well, and I grew up on the Nisqually Reservation. Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes. Zayched esquaque chesed atid slab dbushid altis lachel. I'm very excited to see you all today. As heish bidched ti hat walech zad zal atish atish tabu kwe bali. I'm very happy about this Toshotsi Power Hour of Native Wellness Institute. But we're not going to do the whole thing in Lashutsi. I'm just practicing. Today, we're actually going to be talking about self-care. And I wanted to first acknowledge all of our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And we know that this is a really difficult and challenging time for all of our peoples. We're at higher risk for a lot of violence. We have a lot of shared history of intergenerational trauma, and we have a lot of people who are providing care for others. And so the reason why we chose to end this week with a good self-care is because we know that this is really important to take care of yourself, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we burn out. And we see that a lot with people who are providing care for others. We see people who are in fields of social work, or in fields of even nursing, or even if for family care providers, if you work at all with families, you might know, or if you know families that have a spouse that someone is caring for their spouse, and they have a long-term illness, a chronic condition, we see a lot of caregivers burning out. And if you're not able to, if you burn out, then you won't be able to provide care for other people. So that's why we're really having this focus. And I'm going to switch over. I need to, I'm just trying to open up my, so I can see the comments. So please feel free to share this link on your chats and share with people, and share in the chats your ideas for self-care. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about self-care. So Irene, I know you're a busy person and you're always on the go, and I know you provide care for younger ones and always doing things for your family. What are your tips for self-care? What do you do?
Well, I feel like self-care for me is a lot to do with the way that I eat and diet. First and foremost is the way that I feed my body is important to me. I'm always thinking about how I am taking care of my body in that way. So eating healthy is a huge portion of my life. And then also just language use, us learning language together and having our language sisters is also a huge form of self-care for me. And staying busy, honestly, is um, how I really show myself love, and that I am productive and that I'm adding to the language world and society, that I'm adding to my family and my friends. And so staying busy in those times helps me to keep up with my mental health. And also I do have a counselor, I sought counseling, and so I meet with her once a week, and we talk about just life and things that I would like to overcome from those intergenerational traumas that you spoke about. So those are ways that I kind of take care of myself. I've never participated really in guided meditations or meditating in general, but I can say that I feel like there are times in my day where I feel like it is meditative. Um, Listening to music, cooking, very meditative for me. Um, I do a lot of like soul searching during those times. And so I I speak about this kind of a lot, but not, I don't think I have with you specifically, but in language learning and in my journey in learning language, I feel like it has mirrored like my life. And so when I started learning language, it was very hectic and toxic and really chaotic. And I didn't pick it up as fast as I wanted to. And so um, a lot of it was very sporadic and stressful. I felt a lot of insecurity in language. And so that mirrored my life. I felt like that was exactly the same as I was in learning language. And then once I kind of got more secure and strong and like stable, my language use went way up. I was able to really implement it into my life. And so I feel like when you find that um, like sweet spot of learning and applying, that you're able to set boundaries for one. And so that all goes into self care. I feel like when you're able to set boundaries for yourself and for the people around you, you are able to show yourself love. And it doesn't always look like, you know, taking a bubble bath and lighting candles. Well, that's nice. It is, you know, it goes hand in hand with self care and, you know, taking care of yourself. But I think also being able to plant yourself in a place and to set goals and boundaries and not let anything come between that. And for me, that was learning language and having my goal in mind in that way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I feel like there's so many different realms of self-care, just and there's different ways of doing self-care. Like you mentioned, you know, all of those ways are so good. And when we talk about self-care, sometimes I think that the industry of self-care has really kind of capitalized on like you were mentioning, it's you know, the bubble bath and like the things and the stuff, but self-care, there's so many more aspects to it. And I think especially as our as Native people, like we know that things are multi-dimensional. And so there's like the emotional self-care, like you mentioned, about having those good healthy boundaries, your mental self-care, and really working up focused on yourself and healing and those spiritual aspects. Even like financial self-care can be really an important aspect of your self-care. And I feel like I'm saying self-care a lot, and that's the topic, but I don't know any other words to explain it. However, but yeah, like having those good ways of connecting with yourself and really focused on healing from your own trauma, or like the vicarious trauma, caregiving trauma, or caregiving fatigue, really focusing on the ways that we care for ourselves. And you are all worth it. You are all loved. If no one has told you today, O'o Shabi Tubushi Chud, I love and have compassion for you all. And somebody out there loves you regardless. I really like the way you were talking about you know, finding ways throughout the day, because that can be a challenge too, because sometimes when we say, you know, practice self-care, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, 2 hours of the day, even if it's just like you said, putting that meditation into something that you're doing, or, you know, just putting that intention. And I know when one of our traditional values is like when you're making something, when you're creating something, you're putting your mind and your feelings into it. My son gets very excited about self-care, I guess. He's getting really excited about that. I wonder if you could go play over there. I think Woody wants to go play over there. Sorry. I'm setting boundaries. Trying. um but yeah, totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. um
You were saying when we make things, we put our mind and our
Yes,
spirit.
thank you. Oh my goodness. When we're making things and we're doing, whether it's basketry or beadwork or sewing or music, you know, we're putting our thoughts and our feelings into that. And I feel like sometimes that's why it's part of self-care. It's not even just the act of like doing something repetitive and but like putting your mind back into a place where you're meditating, or you know, just being positive. And that's a really good way to like feed your spirit, feed your hutch, your mind body, feed yourself, is really even if you're doing something like you said, you know, it doesn't have to be a bubble bath. I'm wondering if people are built or who are watching this want to put in your ideas for self-care. I'm just taking a second here to learning boundaries. Yes. I'm reading the comments here. Nikki is really good at practicing self-care and by playing. Taking the time out to work on your issues and problem solving, the rough spots, enlisting others for help, carving out the time, it all helps. That's what Deborah commented, and I appreciated that you were talking about that. She mentioned carving out the time, because sometimes that's what we need to do, is really put it on our schedule. Do you schedule your time?
I do actually. I schedule especially time for cooking, and I know I'm probably gonna, it's a very important to me. I feel like the health aspect of self-care is so important as far as like your physical health. And so I do schedule a lot of my times in cooking, and a lot of that will be when I am very aware of like, this feels good. I know that I'm tired and I want to just get like something quick. I would love to just go to Chipotle, but I know that I got these groceries and I'm going to cook this meal that I seen on Instagram today. So that is a huge form of self care for me. But aside from that, I would say that it's not necessarily planned and more or less like a feeling. So being in tune with myself and saying like, everything else is not important right now. I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling nervous, scared, sad, or whatever I'm feeling that is overpowering for me, that I have that moment now and I need to do it right now. And so that's kind of my gauge for myself, is that I don't let it um, boil over anymore as I used to. And so, yeah, cooking. And then when I feel that I really need to like take time.
Yeah, yeah, listening to your body is so important. We had talked about anxiety before. I think was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We did another, well, we've done a couple of them just on anxiety, and recognizing the signs of, because sometimes we don't notice the signs of stress and that you're overworking yourself until we're like deep in. A few years ago, I was actually I was experiencing burnout at my job, and I wasn't taking good care of my body. I wasn't putting good foods in. I wasn't putting, I was just going, but I wasn't going for myself, and I didn't stop and take the time. And I actually ended up in the hospital, and I had pneumonia, and it was really scary because I just hadn't even you know, I felt like my immune system was weakened because I was just so on the go all the time, and and not really paying attention to the signs that my body was starting to hurt, and I started getting this fever that was like, it was like really high fever. And when you have a really high fever, for those of you who have experienced it, your body just like, you feel like you're freezing and your body hurts. And I was just exhausted. And there was at one point where I was just like laying on the couch, and like I didn't even have the energy to cry, but like tears were just like coming out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, everything hurts and I don't know what's happening. And I ended up going in, and that's when it took a couple of days for the hospital to figure out like that I actually had pneumonia, because one doctor sent me back and he was like, it's anxiety, take these and go home and go to bed. And I was like, but you're not listening to me, you're not, like, something is not right. And so listening to, I mean, it took that to like make me like slow down and like, okay, I think I've just been on the go for too long and I need to stop and really reassess. And so I recovered, and um, I since then I have really focused on, like, even if it's 5 minutes of just like spacing out. I don't know if it's really meditation, because I'm just like thinking deep thoughts about what I can make, or like designs, or I'll draw out little, like, I'm gonna make this skirt and I'm gonna do all of this, and that's just like a very cheap, like free form of self-care for me, just like, yeah, spacing out. And it's good, it's like relaxing. um and and um and I have to be careful too with, like, because sometimes we think self-care, like, I guess it can be, we have to be careful about our forms of self-care, because sometimes I feel like um there can be like scrolling self-care, and sometimes when we start scrolling on social media too much, that can, like, is it self-care? Like, is our heart racing? Are we getting amped up and like seeing who's angry or who's fighting or who's, that can be kind of like, I guess, damaging to your spirit, and just like, if you're going too far, or like if things are not healthy for you. So sometimes we have to understand what's self-care and what's self-medicating. And so it's good to know your body and understanding what's good. And so just really reassessing, what is healthy. And this is no judgment against anyone who does need to self-medicate for things, but just you are worth more than that. You are worth yourself. You are worth your own self-care. I see that Christine wrote a comment about grounding myself by sitting outside barefoot, touching the earth. And that is so important. Taking your shoes off and just, having your feet on the ground somewhere on the earth, not even, if you can get away from like the pavement, but just really having that is like really, really relaxing. As a matter of fact, at the end of this, we'll do a short guided meditation, and I will take you there in your mind. See how that goes. And the other form of self-care that I really enjoy, I don't know about you, and I feel like it's really been healing, is laughter. Like, even when times are rough, like, I don't know, sometimes I think Casey had done a power hour a few weeks ago about laughter, and how laughter is medicine, and it releases those endorphins. And sometimes it feels inappropriate, but also sometimes we laugh at inappropriate times, and it's just like a release. I remember getting in trouble one time. I think my mom might be watching this. So my mom tripped and fell one time. And it was really bad, because like she like skinned her whole leg up and everything. And I couldn't help it because I was scared. And the first thing I did was start laughing. I got in really big trouble. And I'm sorry. She was fine. She's fine. She's totally fine. But I don't know if it was like self-care, but it was healing for me in that moment, because it's scary when your parent falls. I mean, it was like so fast. It was a nervous reaction. I'm sorry, Mom. I was 9. What can I say? I was 9. Um, but yeah, the other thing that you talked about, which I thought was so important, is eating. The foods that we like. Food is medicine. If you think of like medicines as things that alter our body, like food does that. Food feeds us, it feeds our soul. And when we were talking about putting our heart and mind into things that we make, the same thing is happening when we cook. And if you've ever heard that, I'm sure everybody's heard this. I don't know why, if you've ever heard, everybody's heard, oh, the secret ingredient is love. Right? Like it's true. Like you can taste when somebody's like, if somebody's made something and they're angry and they're like, I'm just gonna make though it turns out burnt or bitter, or like it just doesn't, it's not good. And so having those positive thoughts when you cook is so important. Same thing with beating. Well, for me it's beating. Like if I'm not in a good place, I notice that I mess up. Like my beads will be all like bumpy, or a knot comes undone, or whatever. If I'm like, okay, I'm realizing now that my body is not where my body and mind are not in line. And so I need to like stop, take a deep breath, and am I practicing good self-care? Is my mind in a good place? So I just take a pause and then reset, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. This is fun. Now I'm getting back into it. So yeah, I like reading the comments. Some people, for their self-care, it's like being outdoors and getting fresh air. And some people, I love being outdoors, but have you ever talked to somebody who's like, I would rather like sit on the couch and do nothing than be outside? So it's good to know yourself and what you actually enjoy. Because for some people, reading is stressful and reading is work. Reading is like focusing and not enjoying it. But for other people, reading like takes you into a whole nother world. And so that can be really good self-care. I have a visitor. Do you want to say hello? No? Okay. Say hi, Auntie Irene. Here's my other self-care. We're a little, it's okay. You're okay. Everything is good. Everything is fine. We're all normal. Oops. So, Irene, the other question I had for you, you were talking about the language and your language learning journey. And I really liked what you said about how you learned so much more when your mind was in a good place. And I'm wondering, like, do you think that how should I say this? I'm not really forming my question very well, but oops, sorry, pause. Technical difficulties, everything is normal though. Do you think that it's easier for you to learn when you're practicing good self-care?
Yeah, I do. So I just kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think I'll go into it because I'm kind of reflecting on this quite a bit, and I kind of feel like it does make a lot of sense, and maybe someone can relate, not just with learning language, but just in general, something that you are trying to do, or a goal that you're trying to accomplish. And that if your home life is very chaotic, and in my case, abusive and toxic, and this person, I was attempting to learn language, but they anything that I would do that was like really good or positive, it was like they just didn't want that for me. It was almost like just a very controlling situation. And so I tried to like have these two worlds where I was still in this relationship and I was still going through this, but I was holding on to language so hard, and trying to do what I could on my lunch hours, and just not there because of everything I'm experiencing outside of this 1 hour of my week, is just complete chaos. And I'm so unhappy, and I'm eating bad, and I'm sleeping bad, and like I just am unhappy all around. And so I couldn't connect to that part. My church was just so sick at that time. And so when I left this relationship, I really focused in on things that I wanted to do and that I've always wanted to do, and language being like at the top of my list, that I wanted to be in this community of people that they looked happy, they looked very joyful and friendly, and things that I wanted. Like I wanted those connections with people and with things that connected to me, to my culture, because I don't feel like I grew up like that. I didn't grow up in a cultural household. We didn't like drum or dance or anything. It was very much just kind of parents working, we're just with our older sibling kind of thing. And, my dad was like a little party animal too. And so we just kind of raised ourselves a little bit. And so I just didn't grow up in like a culturally aware family. And so I always felt really insecure in every area in that way too. And so once I started they started offering classes, I was really excited to start learning. And again, once I left that toxic relationship and really was able to focus on myself, um, I feel like it just connected more because I had already been taking classes up until that point, but I just was not getting it. It wasn't in my home. It was very much like I just kind of show up and do my best, but not really. And then once it got to my house and I was able to really like just label, and those were like self-care for me. That was exciting for me to have my own space. I had never lived alone before. Um, so it was very much like my little sanctuary. My language nest was like my whole place. It was very exciting for me. And so language nesting in general, I feel like is just such a um, happy place when you realize like kind of what you're doing and the work you're doing. And so it became part of self-care, using language, learning language, and having my space be things that I want to do, was helping my learning exponentially. It's only because of the work that was being done. Like, had I been able to do that work and live in a toxic environment, I don't think that can ever happen. Um, and for me, it definitely didn't happen. It was very much like absent from my life. And so that has helped me to be able to take care of myself more and to also like set the goals higher for myself. Whereas now I am like a language teacher now, and I own a clothing brand that is based in language use, and that I use my clothing brand to um, highlight Tolshutsid and to aid in some sort of revitalization, or I hope it is in some way. And so it's just helped me to get more creative and to take me to places that I never thought that I would be, a business owner, a teacher, you know, financially stable, and just in an overall better place. And so looking at self care in a different way, not looking at it as, you know, external things, but to look at it as something like being able to learn myself and to continue to learn myself and to not be scared of myself and my thoughts and how I feel, and to not be fearful, because in language use and language learning, there's healing in it. And so you are able to look deeper and you're able to be vulnerable because you don't know how to say these words or these sounds. And you really have to be like a little child. And it's kind of weird sometimes because you feel like you're an adult and you should know these things or get these sounds right. And it's been this long. And that's just not the case. We have really great mentors and friends in this community now. And so, yeah, I kind of feel like I was getting a little off track, but that's my experience in self-care is almost 100%. I mean, I do go and like get my nails done and stuff sometimes, but um all of it is internal and learning to like love myself in a real way.
Yes, self-care is self-love. And you're so right about, I mean, there's multiple studies that are, that I don't know, there's always like, there's always like this knowledge that we have inherently, and then there's like a study to prove what we've already been knowing for like decades and centuries and since time immemorial about, it's so much harder to learn when you're under stress. And they see these studies of children's learning habits and children who are in unsafe and abusive homes, and how they're like diagnosed with like learning disability, or you know, all of these things that sometimes it's just like their situation. And you know, I pray for our children's safety all the time, because we know that we need our children to be safe and healthy, and if we're not learning and we're not growing and all of these things, so those are things that are like out of their control. And so as adults, like, it's so important for us to recognize when when we're feeling abused, or like when we, you know, when we have a choice of being in toxic situations. And props to you for getting yourself into a good place where you can be in practice good self-care without someone else looming over you and you know, taking from your hutch. And you know, we talk a lot about energy and stuff, and that energy that we have as human beings, like um, how when we say, when we, have you ever like gone into a room and you could just feel the tension in the air, you know, that's that energy. And so when you put out good energy, like you are, that's a really good sign that you're caring for yourself and that you love yourself. And sometimes, like, if I'm around someone who, have you ever been around somebody who just like, you feel like after you talking to them, you're like, man, I gotta go smudge or something. Like, oh, and maybe that person just doesn't have enough self-love to really be putting out that positive energy. And that's how they, that's their survival mechanism, perhaps, of needing to like take others down, because they think, well, in order for me to feel up, I gotta, you know, put someone else down. And we don't have to put anybody else down to lift ourselves up. We can lift ourselves up in our own way. And you know, having that good self-love is one way of really making others feel good. And sometimes I even do like, well, when in the before times, or whatever we're calling this now, we would do compliment circles, where amongst some of their colleagues, we would just like and we do this in groups sometimes too, where we just give each other a compliment. Like, you don't, all you have to do is say thank you. You don't have to like repeat or like no, or this old thing, you know, just like compliment each other, because it feels good, you know. Tis better to give than receive. And sometimes it really does lift you up, of like by showing someone else love and compassion, it can make yourself feel really good. And I also want to give a shout out to all of our language mentors and relatives and sisters and brothers that really share with so much kindness and compassion, and that is so important. So if anyone on here is watching and listening, and if you're a language learner or a language teacher or a first language teacher, or first language speaker, excuse me, you know, it really does make an impact on those that you're sharing the language with. And like you had mentioned, Irene, about you know, it's more than just the words and translating. You know, I always think of it as like it's giving us a little bit of insight as to how our ancestors thought. And I think in any indigenous language that I've ever like studied or learned, or had friends who spoke other indigenous languages or learning their languages, I've never heard anyone having like cuss words or like words like hatred or you know, those kinds of like negative words, because I feel like our ancestors were masters in gratitude, and you know, had each other treated each other with kindness and compassion. And so I would like to encourage any and all of you to continue on your language learning and language sharing journeys, and with kindness and compassion. So thank you so much for sharing that, Irene, because it really made me think like, yeah, we're so lucky. I mean, if anyone's ever been laughed at for the way that they pronounce things, you know, you're not alone. I think there are a lot of well, we'll just carry on. Okay, are we back? All right. Please share in the comments if you can see us. Oh, good. We're good. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. We had these really great thoughts that oh, good. Okay. Hi, Kristen. It's good to see you. I see you tuning in today. So we had a really good conversation, which I don't know how much of it you all were able to see, but we were talking about how important language is and how it gives us insight to our the way that our ancestors think. And really, oh, okay, we were off for about 5 minutes. Sorry about that, everyone. We were talking about the importance of really encouraging each other to speak our languages, and reconnecting or staying connected to our languages, because it does provide that healing if you can, and if you're able to. And also encouraging and empowering. We were talking about how damaging it can feel when someone makes fun of you for you know, not teasing, because like teasing can be healthy and fun, but really like putting somebody down or criticizing the way that they say it or their pronunciation. Or I mean, I know people who just, they really are motivated and they want to learn, but it's just like mastering language is just not their strong suit, but but they're trying. And it's so important to lift each other up. So we have to start over. Our producer is telling us to start over from the very beginning. So yeah, sorry about that interruption, you all. I'm going to go ahead and reshare so that we can hopefully more people can be able to see us. So yeah, practicing those things. And also I really like the idea of just taking the time to think, and to like, even if it's 20 seconds a day or 20 seconds an hour, and just like resetting and paying attention to those body signals. Like, are your palms sweaty? Are your shoulders way up here touching your ears? You know, are you, and when was the last time you said to yourself, I love you, you're worth it, and you know, and you can do this. You are strong. So thinking about those things is also really good self-care. And also knowing, having that connection with yourself is going to help you connect with other people. And connecting to your community is going to help you connect to yourself. And that'll help you to create joy and satisfaction in your life. So you were talking about, Irene, you were talking about some of the dysfunction that I think a lot of us have experienced. And what was the first like the first step you took in recognizing that, like, okay, I'm not in a healthy place. I need to reset. What was the first thing that you think that you did?
I kind of, so when we speak about like intergenerational trauma, I think a lot of what goes into that is the inability to realize that you're in a toxic situation. One, because you grew up like that. It was very normalized for you, and that was very much the case for me. Um, Being in a relationship very young and having that soul tie, that enmeshment with somebody was very normalized for me. It wasn't strange. It happens a lot on reservations where you grow up with somebody and you connect to them, and it's hard for you to pull away no matter how toxic it is. And so the signs were not clear until it got really bad. You know, it was very much like physical altercations, police involvement, things broken, those kind of things where it escalated to that point where I was like, okay, like this is not for me. I am not happy. I don't know what to do, kind of thing. And so those were not really, there was many signs before that. It doesn't need to go to that extent, but it was, for me, it wasn't until those things happened that I decided that I needed to figure out a way to leave the situation and to focus on things that I wanted to do. And that honestly was not until maybe 5-ish years ago. I'm 33 now, and you know, so 28 is a little pivotal year for me. And I wish that it would have been a lot sooner. I really do. I wish that I would have gotten help a lot sooner and that I would have been more proactive about my self care in that way. But again, the traumas that are passed down, it's hard to realize that, you know, this isn't the way. And so, and to have strong people around you, you know, I had my parents who were always, um, you know, they're very supportive of me and stuff. It's just, if you don't have the words, or if I was never a very like obedient child, I was not one to like listen to mom and dad really. So it took a while. It took a long while.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I used this analogy before when I was talking about anxiety. So, apologies ahead of time for those of you for the repeat. But it's like the frog in the water thing, where if you put a frog in boiling water, they'll jump back out. But if you put them in cold water and then you start turning up the heat, they'll stay in until they get hotter and hotter until someone turns off the heat. Or until someone removes them, right? And so relearning some of those things, because you're right, like when you're in it, it's, and especially when we've been raised in a way that's like, it's things like that are normalized, or you know, things that we experience as that are traumatic, that we don't recognize as traumatic. So I think that, like, totally recognizing and understanding that that sometimes hurt people and healed people heal people. And so recognizing that this person is hurting me because they're hurting, and I don't need their hurt to be my hurt as well. And so that's one really good way of practicing self-care, is having those boundaries. And this is in no way to be blaming or shaming anyone who's in toxic relationships, because I think a lot of times we carry these judgments for others of like, well, they oh well, why don't they just leave, why don't they just do this and that, and it's not always that easy. And I think that's why a lot of us a lot of us get into situations where maybe we're with a person because we don't have anywhere else to go, or we think that this is love, or we think that well, we see the good side of them, and that's the part of them that we love. And if we could just take out that abusive part or that toxic part, then everything would be fine. And we can't change other people. We can only control ourselves. We can't control other people. And so I would like to empower anyone who is watching this to, if you're in an unsafe situation, to reach out for help and make a safety plan. And especially during this week when we're talking about our relatives who go missing, really having good safety planning and reaching out for the resources. I think we can post in the comments some of there's a few national domestic violence hotlines that we can put in there, and as well as the suicide prevention hotlines. I will get those, and we'll put it in the chat after. But yeah, just really recognizing when you're in an unsafe situation, and having that self-love is so very important, because like we've said, if you don't take care of yourself, then no one else will. And Stephen was asking, how do you nurture or protect your safe space nest? And I think he's talking about the language nesting, and that is language nesting is something that we do as we should see language learners, as we section out an area of our home where there's hui o pastoroti. There's no English spoken in that area. So I don't know about you, Irene, but I started with the bathroom, and then we just like walk ourselves through like brushing teeth and washing hands and using the restroom, and then there's no English spoken there, and we post up the signs of how to say those things, and eventually it sticks. Like sometimes we're taught to like just try to, as one of our mentors says, don't memorize it, just speak it. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. So just without memorization. I don't know, do you have any tips, Irene?
Hey, again, so she's talking about our language nest for language. For me, it's making that effort every single day to use it, not just stay silent, because sometimes I just will not speak in there because I don't want to do it for that day. But as far as protecting it, is just leaving English out, and doing my best to do that every day, and to use language every day.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So we have just a few more minutes left, and I want to encourage and empower you all, and to take the time to take care of yourself, and to really focus on what's important to you and what gives you joy. There's this whole idea of like having joy in your home, and we've been doing the decluttering with the community here, and like just looking at things in the home, and like and saying like, is this important to me? Do I need it? Am I just keeping this object? And sometimes creating a safe place and space in your home is just a way of really putting that love into yourself and into your living area, because this is really a place where you should be safe. And we know statistically, again, recognizing our relatives who've gone missing and been murdered, we know that statistically the most dangerous place for a woman to be is in her own home. And so especially for Native women. And so I really want to encourage all of you again to reach out for help and help your and if you can, help others who are in unsafe situations and making those safety plans and creating a safe place for yourself. And I think that was all I needed to say about that. And my prayers too with everyone who has lost someone. And especially this year has been really challenging. And this is why we focused on self-care today, because we know that we have lost so much this year, both from COVID and from people still are continuing to going missing. People are still lives are still being taken by law enforcement. And so it's so important to take care of ourselves while we can. And it's not a selfish thing. Sometimes we, feel like because we're taught so much, about humility, and it's not a selfish thing to have self-care and self-love. If anything, you're giving more to the community. When we talk about the energy that you're bringing that positive energy with you, because you know that you're safe and secure in yourself and feeling good about yourself, so you can provide care. So don't judge people if they're taking self-care. That goes all around. Did you want to add anything, Irene, before we go into our guided meditation?
No, I just want to thank you, though, you and the Native Wellness Institute for having me. I appreciate it. I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. This weekend it's supposed to be nice. So
Yes.
hey, techech dubut chalap. You folks take care of yourself.
Oh, thanks, cool, Irene, so much for joining on a whim, like 10 minutes before. For those of you who don't know, we had a last minute schedule change, and I invited Irene to come in and just chat with me. And she's my ride or die, I guess. So right on. Thank you so much. So yeah, if you want to join in with us, hopefully people have come back, and we're going to do a short guided meditation. So I just want to invite you to sit down if you're not already sitting, and take your shoes off if you can, and just relax. Get comfortable, relax in your seat. You can have both of your feet on the earth if you're able to, and just relax and relax your eyes. Let them fall out of focus, or close your eyes and take a deep breath in and contract all your muscles. And when you let go of your breath, slowly breathe out and release all the tension. So take another slow breath in, except this time, just notice your muscles. Where is the tension? As you breathe out slowly, let that tension go. Breathe in cool air, and when you exhale, imagine all the stress and tension leaving your body. Pay attention to your jaw, your shoulders, your neck, and your back. Are the muscles still contracted? If they are, take another deep breath in and relax them further. It's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to let all of the stress in this moment, because right here, right now, in this moment, you are fine. Right here, right now, in this moment, your body is calm and your mind is at ease. You have nothing to worry about in this moment. Imagine your favorite place to be, to relax. Is it at the ocean beach? I'll show you my favorite place to be. It's at the beach. The grains of sand are so fine that walking on it is smooth. The sand is cool. It's never too hot. starting. It's a very calm beach. And when you walk on this beach, you can walk up right up to the water, and the sun is warm but not hot, and the ocean water is warm and soft at your feet. The waves lap over your ankles, and the medicine of the water heals your joints. Let your toes sink into the sand. You can walk to a quiet place on this beach, and when you sit, you can hear the distant laughter and happiness. This is a good place to be. If you want to lie down on this beach, it's relaxing and your muscles relax into the sand. Listen to your heart beating. It is strong. Take a deep breath in and let the clean air fill your lungs and rejuvenate your body. When you listen closely, you can hear the words of your ancestors. They are with you always, keeping you strong. One of your ancestors in particular is telling you that they are with you, watching you, praying for you. They tell you that you are the answer to their prayers. This gives you strength and motivation. You realize that everything is okay. And in this moment, you are feeling strong. And when you're ready, you can come back. Knowing that today is going to be a good day. And you're going to learn lots and grow lots. O'o shabi tabu hited. I have love and compassion for you all. And I hope you all just relax and you drink lots of water. Take care of your body and yourself. And again, thank you all for joining. And thank you so much, Irene, for joining me and sharing your really positive words. And I think we're going to go into another meeting after this. So please feel free to share any self-care comments in the chat and continue to be kind to each other.
Oi.
Oi.